take, that is a big, I think, the biggest challenge. But actually, the expertise, the willingness, the hunger is already there. Very much existent.
I mean, first, big credit to all four of you right now, because it's like 5 o'clock right now, and you managed to keep everyone alert and awake. So that's big credit there.
Sorry, just want to add something. No, just to add to what everyone has said about skills. I know sometimes, we focus a lot on digital skills, which is very important. I mean, I keep saying that at the rate at which globalization is growing, we're not going to be competing for jobs just with people within our environment. We're going to be competing for jobs with people all over the world, right? We're talking about Africa, estimated the African youth will grow up to 500 million by 2030. So how can we create jobs for them? Not just here, but how can we also export our skills and our knowledge? But another thing I would like to add is soft skills, right? The other panel sessions have spoken on this, but then skills, communication skills, emotional intelligence, branding, communication. Yeah, I mean, all these are really important. And then when you look at the fact that what you learn in school, right, can be quite different when you're implementing. I mean, we all know that the realities are quite different. And how do you learn things like, adaptive learning on the job, human-centered design, things like that are really important if you want to build for the market and if you want to work for the market as well. You just have to be very adaptive and learn how to learn. I think that's really, 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 really important. That's it.
Fantastic. Actually, even now that we're actually going on this kind of positive narrative, I used to work in a company in China, in Hangzhou. It's called Subcon Group, and we used to sell industrial automation and robotic equipment across the world. And one time we sold this industrial automation equipment to a company in Indonesia, and I saw them go from a 2,000-man workforce to 40 people overnight, right? And that opened my eyes to how much tech is changing the narrative of the world overall. So people are very aware there's going to be a sort of a crisis when it comes to unemployment. Right, and if you look at America, apparently it said in the 1920s there was 32 million people were farmers, but now only 240,000 people are farmers, even though the population has grown 3x. So even though jobs are being lost, new ones are being created, right? So just to elaborate a bit more on that sort of point, where are some of the opportunities you see when it comes to employment, across the continent, whether it's in the nation, you mentioned digital, that will be great for people on the continent and diaspora abroad as well?
Well, besides the other ones you've mentioned, I know there will be an increase in demand. There already is in data analysis, for example. We're beginning to really see the importance of data, and with all the data that is being developed every single day, I mean, with all the technologies we use, all the information and that is being produced out there, how can we analyze this data, take all this unstructured data and all that? So those skills are very important. I think, again, I keep emphasizing sector focus, right? Domain experience in sectors that are quite important to take Africa to the next level in terms of development. So when we deal with issues like food security, for example, domain experience in that, or energy, these are quite important. But then research, applied research particularly. So research skills are great, but then how can we now translate that, right, to ideas, and then ideas to viable businesses and all that? So just, she mentioned something earlier about partnerships, which is really, really important. So bringing the different players across the value chain together, how can we work together, right? How can we apply our skills across the value chain to create value? I think that's very important, because working independently isn't going to create much value. And on that, I would say platform leadership. So basically building platforms as well, right, that can aggregate all these resources, aggregate people, aggregate networks, aggregate information, aggregate data. We dream of a world where we don't have to duplicate activities all the time, or, where we can tap into knowledge from anywhere, anyone in the world, or in any sector or industry. So people who can build their expertise in those areas, as well as provide solutions, that would be of great value.
I think also the point on why maybe everybody, including ourselves, obviously is talking about digital skills, because we're not just talking from point of view, okay, this is for the entrepreneur who wants to build a tech business or necessarily a startup. I mean, even in corporate jobs, you know, we heard, I think in the very first panel, if I'm not mistaken, from one of the bank colleagues, you know, saying, look, there's a certain skill set needed now that a lot of the people we hire don't have, whether it's hard or soft skills. But you know, digital skills is one element of this, that also a lot of graduates don't necessarily come out of uni or high school even and have them. So I think when we talk about digital skills, we're not just talking and meaning, okay, this is because, you know, we expect you now to build something around the tech sector or build a startup per se. This could as well be, you know, just finding obviously a normal employment. This is almost nowadays expected. You mentioned obviously everybody is now competing with everybody in the world. Again, the same colleague I think mentioned that they get applications from all over the world for a Nigerian bank in Lagos, right? So that kind of element, I think, well, that's why digital skills, you know, even if you want to go in the agri sector, you know, I mean, you can't almost nowadays, you know, really build a proper business, other than you're obviously a self-sustained farmer, but you can't really build a business if you don't have some element of digital skills. And obviously digital skills now is quite a broad term, so what does that really mean? Does it have to mean blockchain and AI? Probably not. It could start as simple as using obviously, knowing obviously how to properly use a mobile phone, even internet usage. You'd be surprised sometimes in some of the classes we do, obviously, you know, it's sort of positive and negative, but, you know, surprised how little still. When we talk about the internet and you ask people, okay, what is the internet? You know, as simple as that. You'd be very surprised. For example, they think Facebook is the internet. You know, they have this Chinese smartphone for $20 somewhere, you know, in the village, and they're a lot on it. They spend a lot of data. They count as like, this is the new generation, this is the online generation. But if you actually ask them, you know, what do you do online? Like, you know, what do you do on the internet? You know, what do you mean? Like, I share things, I read my news, and like, okay, so where do you go? And then what is the internet? It's like, well, what do you mean, what's the internet? Well, it's Facebook. You know, so, you know what I mean? Like, so it's very, very basic, simple knowledge, but it's because it's across the board, no matter what sector, I think, in any African market and around the world. This is obviously not just Africa, but I think that's why digital skills are so crucial, regardless of what you want to do. And as much as you can obviously advance those skills, you know, they're incredibly transferable. Every job, I think, nowadays, you know, will require some element of digital skills.
So I wanted to address sort of the, if you don't mind. So there's a counter argument that if you're not careful, you know, so as you said, in the next 30 years, Africa is going to be 1/4 of the world's population. Yeah, right. And out of that, 70% is a youthful generation, right? And so this is sort of the narrative for the global south. And then when you take the global north, it's an aging population. So the question then becomes, so you have a very strong youthful generation. If they don't have jobs, then what happens, right? And this is at the heart of the unemployment question. So we've been doing some modeling. We don't think we've got the perfect answer, but we think that, okay, the way you do it is that you just have to start from the point of creating businesses